Okay, so you're here because you want the real deal right. You want insights. You can actually use the kind of stuff that cuts through all the noise and helps you figure out what actually matters in your career. And today we're going to do a deep dive into something pretty cool, a new way to think about your career goals. And it comes straight from RTC's Unite Plus Ignite Summit.
Yes, we're going to be looking at a really fantastic framework that came from a presentation by Justine Clark. She's a senior product manager.
Also known as Product Butterfly.
Right. Product Butterfly.
I love that.
Yeah, she brings so much experience to the table, especially when it comes to product leadership and AI, which is, such a hot topic these
Yeah, it
days.
is.
It is.
And our goal with this deep dive is to really understand Justine's quadrant strategy.
Hmm.
You can think of it as kind of a compass to help you with your own career growth, something you can use in your one-on-ones with your manager, and something that'll hopefully give you a clearer picture of where you want to go professionally.
And what I find especially inspiring about Justine and why I think this framework is so powerful is that she openly shares her own journey. She's a first-generation immigrant from Jamaica, and she really had to navigate the tech world without having like a family background or network in that space. She had to kind of figure things out on her own. And she's talked about those moments of, wondering, do I belong? What are the next steps?
Yeah, and that feeling that she described of navigating uncharted territory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just theory, it's lived experience.
Exactly. And by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a good grasp of how to categorize your skills and, even more importantly, how to identify what Justine calls your thrive zone.
Your thrive zone.
Yeah, let's get into that. So, at its core, the thrive zone is about pinpointing the intersection of what you truly enjoy doing, what you're naturally good at, and what you're genuinely excited to learn.
Right. So it's really about moving toward what gives you energy and maybe spending a little less time on the things that kind of drain you.
Yeah. And the four-quadrant strategy that she presented is the tool to help you map all of this out.
That's the practical application.
Exactly. So let's dive into the first quadrant, which is what you truly enjoy doing, what you're naturally good at, and what you're genuinely excited to learn.
Right. So it's really about moving toward what gives you energy and maybe spending a little less time on the things that kind of drain you.
Yeah. And the four-quadrant strategy that she presented is the tool to help you map all of this out.
That's the practical application.
Exactly. So let's dive into the first quadrant, which is joy and fulfillment. This is all about what truly lights you up, as Justine put it.
Love that phrase.
At the summit, she posed some really interesting questions to get people thinking. She asked, what tasks make time absolutely disappear for you? Like you're so engrossed in them, you just lose track of time. If you didn't have to worry about finances at all, how would you choose to spend your professional time? And who in the industry do you truly admire? And what aspects of their career trajectory genuinely excite you?
It sounds like the attendees were really engaged.
Oh, they were. They actually took time to reflect and write down their responses to those questions.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as we're talking about this, are any activities coming to mind for you? What makes you feel that sense of joy and fulfillment in your work?
I'm definitely thinking about, okay, let's move on to the second quadrant, which Justine called disliked. And this is an interesting one because I think we tend to kind of avoid this area.
Yeah, it's human nature, right? To shy away from the stuff we'd rather not deal with. But you made a really good point that this quadrant is super valuable because it helps us uncover those tasks that are consistently draining our energy.
It's like shining a light on those energy vampires.
Right. And the thing is, recognizing these isn't about complaining. It's about being strategic. It's about minimizing their impact.
Yeah.
So you can free up more time and energy for the things you truly excel at.
So how do you actually go about identifying what belongs in this disliked quadrant? What questions did she ask?
The questions were very direct. She asked, what tasks do you find yourself procrastinating on the most? And I think we all have those, right? What kind of work consistently leaves you feeling completely depleted? Is there a particular job or type of task that you would absolutely never want to do again? And finally, what's one thing you would happily delegate or eliminate from your workload forever if you had the chance?
I can see people having some very visceral reactions to those questions.
Yeah, for sure. And during the summit chat, there were a couple of really relatable examples that came
Oh,
up.
tell me.
One person mentioned that they absolutely hated creating training manuals,
I can relate to that.
and another person said they dreaded craft. Steve made a really crucial point that if we ignore the things in this disliked quadrant, it can lead to burnout over time.
All right. We need to pay attention to those signs. Okay, let's move on to quadrant number 3, which is strengths. And here, Justine encouraged everyone to think of themselves as a superhero.
Love that analogy.
What would your superpower be?
right? What's your professional superpower? This quadrant is about recognizing those natural talents and skills you've developed throughout your career. It's about owning what you bring to the table effortlessly.
Yeah. What questions help people tap into those strengths?
She asked, what are the things people frequently compliment you on? When do you find yourself in that flow state where work feels effortless? Like you're just in the zone. What types of tasks do colleagues or even friends often turn to you for help with? And what specific skills have you honed over time where you now feel a genuine sense of mastery? Now we get to the fourth and final quadrant, which is learning. And Justine emphasized that while it comes last in this framework, it's absolutely essential for growth, for nurturing curiosity, and for unlocking your future potential. She even called it the level up quadrant.
I like that. Level up.
Right.
Yeah. So what are the big questions for this learning quadrant?
Well, the key questions are, what new skills, if you acquire them, could open up significant opportunities for you down the line? What subjects or areas truly pique your interest, even if you don't have direct experience in them yet? And where do you see your career going in the next, say, 3 to 5 years? And what do you need to learn to get there? It's about being proactive about your future.
That makes a lot of sense. And were there any examples given during the summit presentation to kind of spark people's thinking about this?
Yeah, the visuals in Justine's presentation included things like negotiation skills, data analysis, AI, and prompt engineering, which is, a rapidly growing field. And in the chat, people were mentioning things like wanting to improve their public speaking skills, becoming more confident when negotiating salaries and promotions. Someone even recommended the book, Never Split the Difference, for that. So we've explored all 4 quadrants now. The big question is, how do we actually bring this all together? How do we use this to find our thrive zone and then turn those reflections into action?
Yeah, how do we actually use this?
So the thrive zone, as Justine explained, is that sweet spot where your likes, your strengths, and your learning interests all overlap. But it's also about being aware of your dislikes and using them strategically to kind of steer clear of paths that might drain your energy.
Got it.
Think of it like a Venn diagram. The overlap between what you love, what you're good at, and what you're excited to learn, that's your thrive zone. It's where you'll find the most energy and potential for growth.
And based on Kelly's initial mapping, what kind of career paths do you think might be a good fit for her thrive zone?
So based on her strengths, communication, leadership, strategic thinking, combined with her love for teamwork and her dislike of working solo, it seems like roles in areas like product management or project management could be really good options for her. Also, her interest in digital marketing could be another possibility depending on how that aligns with her learning goals.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's important to remember that these quadrants aren't static.
Right.
Justine emphasized that they're not set in stone. You're going to evolve naturally as you gain new experiences, develop new skills, and your interests change. She recommended revisiting this exercise every few months, maybe quarterly, to make sure you're still in alignment with your thrive zone.
Keep it fresh.
Yeah. Self-discovery. She actually created a digital template.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. At the summit, she shared a QR code and a direct link so everyone could access it and use it to map out their own quadrants. And she recommended revisiting this template regularly, maybe every quarter, to see how things have shifted and make sure you're staying aligned with your thrive zone and not accidentally slipping into what she called survival mode.
Yeah, you don't want to just be surviving. You want to be thriving.
Exactly.